What's cracking, everybody? XehrFelrose here, bringing you some Pokemon GO Battle League content. Today, we're going to be taking a deep dive-ish into the PvP update for the Might and Mastery season. This season is looking to be one of the best updates I think that we've had in quite a long time, probably since the update back after Worlds. And I'm looking forward to this one. There's a lot of substance, and I like this one a lot. So let's go ahead and talk about what we're going to cover. We're going to go over all the move updates themselves, what's affected, and what is worth the Stardust now that things have been adjusted. Big question is, what resources do you want to be running? So we're going to have... We're just jumping right into it, man. We're jumping right into it. We're going to go to Psyshock. Psyshock is going to be having a lower energy cost going forward. Probably just -5, as normally the small increment is what it is. But what's affected here in the Great League, we're going to be having both forms of Ninetales along with Mew, which actually now prefers to run Psyshock instead of like Surf Wild Charge, at least for its, you know, most effective moveset. You're also going to be able to use Armarouge to better effect, having less energy on Psyshock, and Bronzong in those limited metas where it's useful is going to see some better play with Psyshock. Armarouge, by the way, if you guys know, we're going to be getting an event here at the beginning of March that's going to be giving us a research level Charcadet, which you can then evolve into the Great League eligible Armarouge or Ceruledge. In the Ultra League, it's pretty much the same, but Master League, actually, Meloetta and Tapu Lele are some solid contenders in the Master League, and they're getting even better with the Psyshock update. Dazzling Gleam is getting a bit of a rework. It's just a balance. This is a complete just balance. Like, I think of things as either nerf, rework / balance. Well, no, 4 ways, right? Nerf, buff, rework, and rebalance. This is a balance right here. This is bringing the energy cost down as well as the power. It's just, both are going down, right? And so we're trading damage for pacing here. And honestly, most of the things that are affected have other moves they prefer to use anyway. But Togetic is going to be one of the things that likely uses it. You'll also see this on Alolan Ninetales that will be running Weather Ball and Powder Snow, this move I was looking up. And you're also going to see the odd Altaria here once in a while. However, Clefable, Jumpluff, and Mew all have moves that they would prefer to have over Dazzling Gleam. So I don't expect them to be on this list. Also, I know that there are some Pokemon that got Dazzling Gleam. I'm leaving that for a section after this. So if we're talking about anything new that got new moves in the update, we're going to get there. Because I know that Sableye is definitely affected in the Great League, but it doesn't currently have it. It's getting it with the update. And then Meloetta is actually going to look to probably go for Psyshock, Dazzling Gleam, or something close to it. Enamorus, if you want to run the nuke on it, does, and this is all Master League. Golden Go also, I think it prefers Focus Blast for the Dark types and Rhyperior, but it does have a nice option in Dazzling Gleam. And then if those of you who are running Xurkitree in the Master League, hats off to you Spice Lords. You have a nice, quicker Xurkitree Dazzling Gleam. Also, Roserade is something that also got buffed, got Poison Sting. That is also affected. It's completely meta-dependent, though, if you're going to be running Dazzling Gleam or Leaf Storm. Because usually you want Leaf Storm on your Grass type, right? So, now, the next one, this is like almost a rebalance. This is a rebalance, not like a rework. Like, rework for me is if something like also gains the ability to drop or heighten defense, offense, stuff like that. So this is another nice balance, but Aqua Jet is going to be really only viable on Golisopod as far as Great and Ultra League go, and then Keldeo becomes a little bit better in the Master League and the Ultra League if you prefer to bring that out of your Spice Cabinet. Like, I have mine sitting in my Ultra League Spice Cabinet. We might have to try it. It's a nice answer to Feraligatr. But Dugong is also something that is meta relevant that gets it, but having the ice ground coverage being so good as it is, I don't think that Dugong is going to want to drop Drill Run for it. And then Wartortle is a bit of a spicier pick that we'll see rise up because of Aqua Jet. It also has access to Ice Beam. It's like a bulkier Blastoise. And then Brionne is something that you guys are going to think of the Scroll Cup with how they banned Primarina. Yeah, Brionne can Charm, and it gets Aqua Jet, so that's a thing. Next, we're going to see a Dynamic Punch buff. This is actually now becoming a clone of Psystrike, which is already an insanely efficient move that really only Mewtwo has. So having other moves become Psystrike, I believe Avalanche is also a Psystrike clone. So it's basically the pacing is going to be definitely better for this move. And Medicham is going to be the biggest beneficiary of this move update. And then the Machoke and Machamp line, they do typically want to run... I think with Choke does get Dynamic Punch, but usually you want to run Cross Chop on Machamp. This now gives you a slightly better alternative to Cross Chop that isn't close combat. So you could see them go Dynamic Punch and Stone Edge and or Rock Slide. With Karate Chop, that's insanely good coverage and insanely strong damage. Golurk also is something that uses the Dynamic Punch in both leagues. It usually doesn't really run Earth Power, so cheaper pacing for that's nice. And then Armored Mewtwo in the Ultra League, for those of you who do have them, you will benefit from this having a better hitting or a better pacing Dynamic Punch. Now it's straight 4 instead of 5-4 or whatever the count was. And then Ledian and Poliwrath are kind of two other things that get it that don't really see play as much anymore, so... Sludge becoming relevant. Who would have thunk it? Really? The list is so small, though. And just like Aqua Jet, I feel like Sludge and Aqua Jet are both moves that are likely just getting testing this season as better moves, and then they're going to slowly feed them out to other Pokemon. Kind of like what they've done with a few moves, right? Like, they'll rework it, and then what they'll do is they will, like... Don't mess with that. That was, they'll just, like, rework it and then start slowly adding it to other things as we find out that the move is fine. Galarian, Weezing, Marshtomp, and Grimer are the only Great League Pokemon that are eligible to get this move, and Ultra League is only Galarian, Weezing. When I tried to search up Sludge, it also filtered in Sludge Wave and Sludge Bomb, so if there is anything missing here, you let me know in the comments, but I could not see anything that learned Sludge that cared. But... yeah, I think this is going to be something they'll pass on to more. And then Swampert also got access to Sludge as well, so that's noteworthy. Hex is getting a complete buff. More damage, more energy. This is definitely a buff. This is a balance change. This is giving things an alternative to Astonish and giving some of the things that aren't as good as the Astonish users a chance to use a better fast move in Hex. Jellicent, I think, is the biggest winner of this particular change, as well as Dusclops going up to number 8 in the Great League rankings. Jellicent was already good, but the pacing change to Surf when it got nerfed hurt it. So now it's going to be even better, and the pacing is basically right back to where it was pre-nerf of Surf. And then your Shadow Ball pacing is 5-4-4 now. That's just a thing you should remember. But Drifblim has an alternative, as well as Dusknoir, to using Astonish if they want to. We recently had Love Cup, where Slowbro and Medicham and them were very common. Slowking was a Pokemon that I like to use against that meta, so if you ever get a meta back where Slowking is useful, having that increased damage and energy is going to be really awesome. Put that back. Not messing, that is not yours. That is your sister's. And then that's pretty much it, though. Like, Marowak still wants to have Fire Spin. Frostlass is going to depend, but it is better with Hex now than it was with Powder Snow, but it's a preference of coverage, I think. Acrobatics, this is a very small move pool of things that know this, so it's just getting an energy cost decrease, so it's not as big of a difference going for something like Aerial Ace versus Acrobatics on Jumpluff, and I think that's partially why this was made, is because people had to TM away a legacy move. I've done it. I have done it. It's not something I feel great about, but I did it. And now they're giving you a smaller window of difference between Acrobatics and Aerial Ace, which I think now you might see a lot more value out of the Acrobatics Jumpluff now and see them more often in the latter than mostly Aerial Ace. But Emolga definitely benefits from this change as well, getting that it just uses the move and it appreciates it. Naganadel, if you have it, yay, you've got a buff Naganadel. Let's go. Air Cutter is the complete rework. This change is going to affect things that wish they had better fast moves for the most part. Farfetch'd is probably the spiciest thing on this list, but is also the thing that is most likely to benefit from it because it actually gets a different, like, it has Fury Cutter, I believe, and it has, you know, Air Cutter now, which is kind of interesting. But Pidgeot will still prefer Aerial Ace, Brave Bird, or Feather Dance. You're not going to cut any of those out for Air Cutter. Golbat and Crobat both appreciate it, but again, because they have Wing Attack, the pacing's not going to be as good as any, you know, it could be on something else. So I'm not sure what the answer is with the bats here, but I would love them to make Crobat meta again. That Crobat was so fun, dude. And like Air Slash, they could change Air Slash, and at least you get something out of Crobat, and I think that'd be good enough. But also, if you played Mega Master League or Battle Frontier, Mega Pidgeot would potentially have another option, but again, I don't think it's going to really opt to go for any of the moves it has already. Rock Tomb, though. I think this is one of the most important updates of move changes, right? Things to existing moves. More power, less energy, and it's still guaranteed to lower the attack by 1 stage. So they basically just turn this into Breaking Swipe on steroids, because it has a better, like the coverage better, but it's definitely not as cheap, right? It won't be as cheap. They'll make it so that maybe it's 50 energy instead of, or no, yeah, 50 instead of 55, or maybe 45 energy. But I don't think that it's going to be something that's, you know, I don't know. It's just a complete buff, but I don't think it's going to be something that, like, is as good. But we'll see. Anyway, Claydol is going to be the main beneficiary in the Great League. It's going all the way up to, like, number 18 in the rankings. They finally gave Claydol the buff that it needed. But Cradily, Spiritomb, Forretress. I love Forretress. And then Magcargo are the most meta things on the Great League list here. Cradily becomes a much more consistent swap. Instead of having, like, Rock Slide, it now has the debuff. Spiritomb just got completely usable again. And Forretress, I've been using Rock Tomb Forretress, but now that it gets even better damage and pacing out of this attack, it actually could do very well here. I like it against the Great League quite a bit. And then Spinda and Kanto Sand / learn Rock Tomb, and now actually will prefer it. Reuniclus, and that's pretty much it for Ultra League. And then again, for you guys who love playing Master League in some form or fashion with Megas, Mega Aggron also learns Rock Tomb. But yeah, this is one of the most impactful ones as far as move changes, because it propels a lot of things with it farther up in the rankings. Rollout has been nerfed. However, Mud Slap and Astonish failed to be on this list, which I also think is quite a mistake, but fine, I guess. Rollout doing 1 less damage. It actually drops the typical Rollout users by a lot of ranking slots, and the reason why is because at the damage that Rollout was doing, it actually does an overwhelming amount of damage that affects those matchups. Like, they go from being matchups that are based on the damage of Rollout rather than the damage coming from the charge move. So I think that this makes sense as an update, but I would like to see, like I said, 1 damage nerf to, like, Mud Slap and Mud Slap and Astonish. I think that, you know, I like that you can 2-shield through things with those moves. But I also think that it's like, is this something we want to do, right? I think it would be, I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, Alolan Golem also is really the only thing that has Rollout that is actually affected by this. The things that are getting Rollout this season are obviously affected by this, but we'll talk about them in a little bit. Nightshade getting a nerf. This is a direct nerf against Galarian Corsola because nobody was playing Noctowl. So this is absolutely just a rebalance of Corsola to get it kind of a little bit worse in neutral situations, so that maybe those of us who don't have one that's worth building or are coping with bad IVs because we don't want to deal with the accessibility of trading, maybe aren't as reliant or upset about seeing them. Yeah. Foul Play getting another buff. I'm going to say another buff, but it's getting a buff here. It's doing a little bit less. Well, I guess this is more of a balance. This is doing a little bit less power, but a little bit less energy. So considering that it is currently, I believe, 45 energy for Foul Play, it goes down to about 40, which makes this very similar to Xehr, if not a direct clone. I actually don't know if it is or not. I don't know the stats of them off the top of my head. But this is going to make Mandibuzz, Malamar, Sableye is going to be extremely relevant again. And then it also is nice for the limited Metamons and Amoonguss and Klefki, and Umbreon also does slightly benefit from this, but I find that in the rankings it actually prefers to run Dark Pulse for more damage rather than going for spammier Foul Plays. And then in the Ultra League, a Great League also, Berserker does exist, but it's really just from limited metas, but Berserker in the Ultra League when it does pop up, and then all the aforementioned things that get up to the Ultra League CP. And there's actually nothing in the Master League that I'm at least aware of, that actively uses Foul Play. Discharge getting a long overdue change here. We're going to be seeing it drop 10 base power, and it's going to be having its energy cost get decreased. So what's affected? Definitely going to be Unova, Stunfisk, and Emolga. Charge-a-Bug is another one that's very popular. I think Charge-a-Bug is absolutely just loving this update right now. I think that with the later buffs that we're going to talk about, Charge-a-Bug breaks a lot of those up. So early season gains, while people are trying to mess with stuff that's new, you might just be able to sneak in with a Charge-a-Bug team and just completely decimate someone's entire afternoon. But we're also going to see some fringe mons like Bellibolt, Toxtricity, and Galvantula also see the updated change here and appreciate it. And also, like I said, y'all with that Xurkitree, I see you. I see you benefiting in the shadows. So, now we're going to talk about all the different updates that are actually available now on the Pokemon. And again, the season turns over as of release. It's going to be tomorrow. It's Tuesday, March 4th. March 4th at 4 p.m. Eastern, whatever your local time zone is. That's when you're going to see these updates go live. So don't go trying to TM anything right away, but this is where we're going to be able to get it. Anyway, Piloswine and Mamoswine are Pokemon that are really going to appreciate the pacing of Icicle Spear here. I especially think that Mamoswine is interesting because now it has Mud Slap, has Icicle Spear, and it also has Stone Edge. So it has a perfect trifecta of coverages that allows it to hit anything in the meta. Because if you think about how the ground ice coverage on Dugong is only resisted completely by Araquanid and Golisopod, you now have Stone Edge for those kinds of matchups. So this could be a very interesting Pokemon to have if you're looking to, you know, if you're looking to play a meta that, like, you maybe think that Mamoswine has a slot in. Piloswine does not have Mud Slap, however, it just has Powder Snow, so metas that Piloswine and Mamoswine are relevant in definitely are going to be helpful, but it's not a must build, and I would like have it ready to go at some point, but don't spend your resources on these guys until we actually get a meta that's going to be impactful for them. Togetic and Togekiss now both getting access to the newly buffed Psyshock. Well, one of them cares. Togetic actually will benefit from this. Togekiss, because its only capable damage is in energy gains or from Charm or Air Slash, it's really not going to care so much about Psyshock. However, I definitely could see Togetic being able to benefit as a safe switch more so with Psyshock having access to Fairy Wind. It gets to those Psyshocks very quickly, and it would actually be able to, you know, maybe bait out a Poison type and get it with Psyshock, stuff like that. So I think that Togekiss is still going to prefer its other moves over the Psyshock, but it's good as a safe swap of either of these two Pokemon to have that coverage. Kind of like how Sylveon already does. Reuniclus! Somebody make him good. It does get Psyshock, however, its only fast moves are Zen Headbutt and Hidden Power. So unfortunately, this guy is completely irrelevant at the moment because of those move options. I have a rank 1 Greatly Reuniclus sitting in my storage, and I was like, I finally get to build it! And to see that it still has no good fast moves. I thought it also had Psywave. That was why I was excited about it. But since it does not, I do not think that this Pokemon is going to be worth your energy or your time or your resources at the moment. But if you have a good one, it really is just a fast move away from being relevant. So at least hang on to him if you got him. Bruxish, coming in with them lips. Kiss me, baby. Has those teeth, man. Getting access to Psyshock is not going to matter for Bruxish that much at all. Its fast moves are Confusion, Bite, and Water Gun. And only Water Gun or Confusion are ever realistically getting to moves. And it already has access to Psychic Fangs. While it is going to do more damage than Psychic Fangs, it also trades off that guaranteed debuff of defense. So it's kind of like one of those things where it's like going to be very situational depending on how you feel like you like your matchups. But it doesn't need Psyshock to be any better than it already is. So for that reason, I would say it's not worth building if you don't already have one built. And just, you know, next time we get a meta where Bruxish is really good, then go ahead and build it, have it ready to go. One of my favorites, dude, Venomoth is getting updated with Psywave. It already has Poison Fang, and we also have Bug Buzz on this thing for some heavy-hitting stab nuke damage. So Venomoth already has the moveset now with Psywave to be able to do decent things in the meta. Its typing is going to be where it's going to make the difference because most of our Psywave users currently are already Psychic types. So now we actually have something that's not a Psychic type that gets Psywave that is going to actually appreciate it. So we still relegate this thing to the Spice Cabinet, but you bet I'm going to try and make it work because I have really good Venomoths stored, both a Shadow and a Hundo and a regular Great League one. So I want to try it just for the memes, I guess, if anything else. But hold until you see some content creator go wild with this thing and decide you want to give it a try. Until then, probably not going to be super relevant, at least in the main meta. Definitely a limited cup sort of build. Here it is. This is one of the most, if not the most talked about update. I think there's two most talked about, most relevant updates from the list of what was made available. Lapras gets a more efficient water charge move. I know initially when we saw the news, it said fairy type, Sparkling Aria, but I think that Niantic realized that Sparkling Aria is not at all a fairy type move, and so they had to change it. But we all thought it was going to be a fairy type move because they did. But no, in the main games, it's actually a water type move, which makes it much more efficient than Surf because it's basically just a slightly worse Hydro Cannon. And then Psywave allows Lapras to function a very flexible role in the same way that you see Malamar doing it. It is able to be one of those Pokemon that draws out a fighting type and then hits it hard with those super effective Psywaves and paces to Sparkling Aria pretty nicely. And if anything comes in like a grass type, you have Ice Beam and has really good pacing and neutral damage from Lapras into the grass types, makes that Ice Beam matter. It sort of makes me feel like a bulky, and it's similar to Feraligatr to me, except it's bulky and has the added ice typing. I feel like that's kind of what I'm feeling like from Lapras. So it's a very safe Pokemon and can focus, and you can put it on any role as a very solid spot. If you have Laprases, I absolutely believe they are worth immediate investment of resources for the Great League and the Ultra League. And it's just a note here that even though Ice Shard was Legacy, Psywave is significantly better, but if you have the option to, I would save an Ice Shard Lapras and a Psywave Lapras for each league. If you have the Ice Shard already built, you know, and you have maybe a spare Lapras you can use, don't TM it away if you don't have to. But if you only have one, like me, I only have one of a certain league, so I would just TM away Ice Shard and be like, you know what, if I ever want Ice Shard again, fine, I'll change it. But having Ice Beam allows you to not need Ice Shard, I think. And Normal and Shadow on this, by the way, are definitely worth having. I think the Normal is going to be able to be better as a safe swap, whereas you could use the Shadow as a closer, potentially. But very, very strong Pokemon after this update. And here's the other one. The big pig himself, Grumpig, becoming absolutely meta-relevant and oh my god, it's got to be the biggest winner. I think that it is the single biggest winner of the update. If I've said it before, I overwrite that with Grumpig because Grumpig, you guys have heard about how on Primeape and Annihilate, the fighting ghost coverage is perfect coverage. Grumpig already has Shadow Ball. This thing now has Psywave, same type attack bonus Psywave, has Dynamic Punch for the dark types, and has Shadow Ball for the ghost types, and has those two moves to be able to hit anything it wants in this meta. And Grumpig is now above Corviknight in the Ultra League rankings. You need an XL. It needs to have some attack. It has to be like a 315 something, or something close to that. So hopefully you save Grumpigs. I happen to have a couple, but I don't have any Shadows, so I won't be able to enjoy Shadow Grumpig. But however, I think this is a very, just in general, extremely strong Pokemon, and that you can put Primeape with this coverage anywhere on a team. You can also put Grumpig with anywhere on the team. It's going to function a little bit like Malamar, except it doesn't have the dark typing, and instead of having Foul Play, it has Shadow Ball. Furret gets another one. It got Sucker Punch earlier in the, I believe, last season or the season before, and it now has Swift and Trailblaze added to its moveset, so that goes on top of Dig and Trailblaze and Brick Break. So you can definitely use whichever moves. I think that now that Furret just feels like a very strong toolkit kind of Pokemon that has a lot of different movesets and coverages, and it's got some pretty respectable bulk as well. I would say that it's definitely a worth your Stardust build, but not something that you're going to need right now, like you're going to want to have Grumpig and Lapras right now. Linoone is also getting the Furret treatment here, having Shadow Claw instead of Sucker Punch. It's another alternative of Shadow Claw versus, like, Shadow Claw is a really strong move, but obviously gets walled by a couple of types, whereas you have Sucker Punch, which is an old counter clone, very strong dark type move. So I think that both of these now fill the same role of having a toolkit sort of charged move set while having a different fast move to kind of give you an option as to which one you want to try. Do you want the damage from Sucker Punch, or do you want the mix of damage and energy from Shadow Claw, but having those different typing interactions? So, same exact outcome here as Furret. Basically, if you have one, great. worth having and definitely worth building, but not something that you need in order to do well in the Go Battle League. Drampa, old man Drampa. Oh man, this makes me think of a wise old sage, really do. Drampa, huh? Snoop Dogg? I see it, dude. I see the glasses. Drampa's an old man Snoop Dogg. You heard it here first. So now that it gives it access to Swift, this gives it a same type attack bonus move because it is a normal dragon type and allows you to use Swift and Fly if you want to for good coverage against fighting types with Fly and Swift for nice same type attack bonus damage. Stop messing with the light bright. Not yours. No. No. But you also have, I think it has Outrage or something like it in its moveset as well, so you have the option to have that dragon coverage. But it's not easy to get under 1500. I think you have to get it in research or trade it or something. I don't actually know, and I don't have one, so I couldn't say. But it's really just a limited format mon where there's like maybe a lot of ghost types and elemental types, right? Dusknoir. Probably third place as far as updates here. It kind of works along with Claydol here. I think that we could go either way. But Dynamic Punch and Shadow Punch or Shadow Ball or Poltergeist. I don't know if it has Shadow Ball. I think it does, but I don't know if it does. Basically, it's basically the fighting ghost coverage once again. However, in this case, we have Astonish or Hex to fuel the moveset instead of Psywave. But it gives you that coverage against normal and dark types that normally wall Dusknoir and make it very uncomfortable. But it's going to be great for Ultra and Great League, and it's going to be a really good shadow if you have it because of the fact that it's got a really large attack stat. That's what's going to matter. Sableye, my boy, welcome back. And I think this is a really huge update, not for battle relevance, but for trainer accessibility. Because for the longest time, Sableye as a safe switch has needed return, needed to be purified in order to be able to hit back those dark types that come in on it or those normal types that come in on it. You now have a non-legacy or not, whatever you want to call return. You have a non-accessible, it's very accessible, basically. You have a non-issue, it's accessible. And Dazzling Gleam allows you to hit back against the fighting types, the fairy, or not the fairy, well, yes, also the fairies, but allows you to hit off against anything that's not, you know, gonna be a problem for Sableye, like, or anything that's gonna be a problem. Brain is going faster than my mouth, and it's difficult, okay? Sableye now hits dark and normal types without needing to be purified. That's the reason why this is such a good update. So if you don't have it purified, you can still build it. I can't tell you how many good Sableyes I have that aren't returned, and I'm like, I guess I'll just stash this for some reason, so I'm glad I did. But like, you never build those because everybody says you need return, so now you don't. And it's awesome. Ribombee! 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 Ribombee gets Charm. And this is just giving you another way to play the Pokemon. It gives you, she's just laying next to my desk. Weirdo. Gives you the ability to have a different play style because I believe it had Fairy Wind previously, but it's a Spice Mon, and Charm doesn't really bring it out of that by itself, so it's just another Charm user. That's all. Rollout Blastoise is the underrated best change of the season because you go from having the energy generation of Rollout, or of Water Gun, to the nice energy generation of Rollout. And that is going to be important because now it's going to be relevant in a safe swap role. Has the water ice coverage, or it has Skull Bash as well to be able to hit back against, you know, Ice Beam for dragons and grass. Skull Bash if you want it to be something that can hit other water types, but getting to those moves quicker is a massive change for Blastoise, and it only really trades away the matchups where the water guns were what mattered, like for against ground types like Marowak, and maybe, you know, I don't even think that, yeah, you don't really have any issues with fire types, so it's mostly the ground types that you give up because you don't have that fast move pressure now. But I think that in general this is more than positive, and it gets a lot of wins in the Great League and the Ultra League with this. And even though those of you who want to play Battle Frontier with Mega Master League and stuff, you're going to be able to use this to beat Kyurem forms in Master League if you have a Mega Blastoise, so worth keeping that in mind. Weezing! One of the things that I've been hoping would finally be relevant, because I have decent ones. Weezing now gets Rollout. So it's going to be filling a very similar role to Blastoise, and that's another Rollout user. Good safe swappy sort of Pokemon, and it's a poison type, so we don't have a Rollout user with poison yet. But it has a really nice toolkit moveset, but it's all nukes, basically. So it's going to be like a safe swap kind of Pokemon that is, you know, aimed at directly hitting a couple of different types. I think will be the best use for Weezing. So it's not worth building right now as much as I want to tell you to go build one right now because I love this thing getting Rollout. Its win rates in Great and Ultra League are still pretty abysmal, so I would not make this into something that you like need to go get like right now. I also realized this whole time that I've had the Might and Mastery logo behind my head, and I have nowhere else to put my head, so that's been cool. Wailmer getting the Rollout treatment, as is Wailord. Wailmer, XL for the Great League. Wailord has to be a hundo for the Ultra League. So keep that in mind if you want to build them. But the whales are here. Not just in Master League, but now they're going to be coming down upon us for every league. And these whales have some pretty nice bulk. They're like Snorlax. They have a ton of HP. They're like Guzzlord too. And they remind me in their coverage of having like Body Slam and Scald as their moveset. It reminds me a bit of Bibarel without the normal typing. So I think that this could be a really interesting limited meta kind of Pokemon, but I don't think that you need to go out and build your Stardust, but start hunting them. There will be a point where they're going to be relevant. Glalie, another thing getting Rollout, has the same coverages as Frostlass and Avalanche and Shadow Ball, however without the Ghost subtyping. So I don't think it's going to make it any better than it already is. Glalie still is just kind of because Ice as a defensive typing is just so bad, but it will still be sitting kindly in your Spice cabinet until you'd like to break it out. It maybe sees playing some limited cups like the single type cup if we ever get that back. Maybe it'll get useful in there. Cradily getting Rock Tomb. We're talking about the Rock Tomb users now. A reminder that Cradily now has Rock Tomb, and having Bullet Seed to get to those Rock Tombs makes it a really nice safe switch, as, you know, Rock Slide before, like, something that really helps something become a great safe switch is having a debuff move. Like, you think about Dugong, right? You're going to have Dugong with Icy Wind. It's able to kind of like disrupt those matchups that normally might be good for it with that debuff. Cradily now has that same thing, but different coverages. So I think that this will make Cradily a very possible meta threat in the open leagues now, but probably more so in Great League where you see a lot more water types. Ultra League is kind of more dominated by dragons and Feraligatr. I mean, Feraligatr have a bad time with this thing, but there's different things in the Ultra League. I don't think it's going to be as good unless we get like a limited meta again, but Cradily's definitely going to make waves in the main metas, and then also definitely going to be a much better version of itself than it used to be with Rock Slide and limited cups. Bombirdier is getting the Galarian Moltres treatment. Hear me out. This is actually kind of neat. I know, viewer Mr. McLean, I know you're loving this update, dude. He submitted some Bombirdier battles to me a long time ago, and I loved him. But this adds flexibility and coverage to Bombardier's existing move pool. It has Fly, and now it has Fly and Payback. And now it also suffers from having been nerfed by Wing Attack. Now it has Sucker Punch, which is a relevant fast move. It is given the Rock Tomb and already has Fly, or you could run with Payback. So it's got the Galarian Moltres coverages, but without needing a Galarian Moltres. And I think that's why this update is really nice. I think that because this is going to allow us to run the same move set or typing or coverage, like basically the same as Galarian Moltres without having to have that legendary barrier to entry. You might see Bombirdier make very similar waves in like the same metas that Galarian Moltres would have. Swampert had Sludge Wave. Now it also gets Sludge. So it can either turn it into a wave or it can just throw it at your face. But it has the option, but I think that this is nice because it's a cheaper alternative to Sludge Wave, and it makes Swampert function a little bit better in those teams where you just want to run a double Mudboy team, but you don't want to swap out, like, you don't want to safe swap like Swampert as much because of the fact that it'll just get farmed down. But now having Hydro Cannon and Sludge gives it a very nice way to be a safe swap for like a double Mudboy team if you wanted to run it. But it's not one of those things that's telling me like go rush out and build a Swampert if you don't have one already. Like Swampert's not going to be any better than it already was, because there's definitely times where it's going to prefer to have Earthquake because it's just better damage and coverage. But you definitely will, like, if you have a Swampert already, cool, you now have an option to run Sludge. On the Sludge list as well, Swalot it already had Sludge Bomb, so it's not really gaining anything new from this rebalance update. However, it's getting a cheaper Sludge or Poison type damage source, so that might be kind of nice for it. But I don't think it moves the needle for it too much. It's just an option. Dragale! Again, we had Focus Blast Dragale this last season, and it was completely useless. Now I think maybe they figured out that what it really needs is the cheaper poison damage, which is something that I had said when the Focus Blast update was given to it. It needs cheaper poison damage, and I think that giving it Sludge Bomb over Gunk Shot is a much-needed improvement for consistency. However, what I think I would really like to be able... Because, like, now you can run... you can realistically run the Dragon Water poison coverage and still get to moves that matter. Like, you can still run Dragon Tail, you can still run Aqua Tail, and you can run Sludge Bomb instead of having to feel like you have to go for Outrage just because Gunk Shot is so expensive. I would definitely think that Dragale is going to make some changes here in the meta, because it definitely kind of just completely clowns on the Drapion, and it helps that when you can do that, you also have Sludge Bomb to hit Azumarill, so that core gets a little bit broken up by Dragale to a degree. And then we've also got a lot of grass types in the meta. Like, Dragale could make itself at home in the open leagues, I think. Roserade gaining access to Poison Sting. Has Poison Jab already and Bullet Seed as a legacy move, so it now has fast charging Poison type fast moves, which is, I think, going to just be the way to go because of how good Poison Sting is now. And with Leaf Storm and Weather Ball in its move pool, I think that it's going to not only get to these moves very quickly, but consistently. It makes Roserade able to be that grass type, because it also has Grass Knot. You could do that as well. It allows the Roserade to be the grass type without having to sacrifice its move, its coverages. Because, like, you can get to the grass type moves now instead of having to rely on either farming down with Bullet Seed or going for the slower Poison Jab energy gens. Again, it's not moving the needle on Roserade as of now, but it's better than it was, but it's not like a must-have right now. Flora just getting access to Trailblaze alongside another couple of things. This thing already has Petal Blizzard, and this is really a Master League change for me, because what now you're allowed to do is go for much cheaper damage or much cheaper energy into the Rhyperior with grass type damage. You could go for a Trailblaze and then farm down. I don't know how much damage it does off the top. I didn't actually think to look before this, but I think that you have play with Florges now with Trailblaze as its bait move, maybe instead of Disarming Voice, or you could run both Disarming Voice and Trailblaze. You can run it with Moonblast. It's nice that you have that option, because running like double Fairy, it's not bad, but the problem is that having all Fairy in your moveset, it doesn't allow you to do anything outside of that one typing. So having Trailblaze allows it to diversify its damage a bit, which is also really nice. It kind of like low-key transforms Florges into the grass type that we all thought it was, but didn't actually have the grass typing. Mightyena gets Sucker Punch, and it has now, in addition to the Elemental Fangs that were recently buffed, you now have same type attack bonus Sucker Punches. So, Mightyena just getting better and better. It has Poison Fang. I don't know what the charge moves are on it, but I know that, like, mono dark typing, it's not incredibly amazing, because you have to suffer from, like, matchups from fighting types. You just don't have much play into those, so, like, you have to have a coverage move for the dark or for the fighting types, I feel. But it's definitely going to be interesting, and it's more relevant for some limited cups, perhaps. Bellybolt also getting Sucker Punch. It pretty much just completely prefers Thundershock anyway, but has that option for Sucker Punch, which is nice. What Bellybolt really needs is a coverage charge move, not another fast move, in my opinion. Give it a water type move so that we can, like, hit back ground types, right? Like, safe swap Bellybolt, but now you can hit back with, like, I don't know, Aqua Jet or something. I don't know if it actually learns any of those moves, but, like, have something you can hit it back with afterwards. So that's the entire list of updates. In my opinion, this was an incredibly strong Go Battle League update. It felt to me on par with, well, maybe not on par. It felt like maybe just a peg under the move updates that we got in last year in August or September. So for that reason, I give it a B+. Everything, however, in this update, and there was a lot of updates, everything that got a change in this update pretty much benefits it from some way, whether it's now receiving a better move in general or one of its existing moves being better for it. Most of the things in this change were all buffs in some way, with the exception really of Nightshade and Rollout were the only two things that really were directly nerfed. So we have some really refreshingly nice changes coming to the meta, and I'm really excited actually to play some of this new stuff in the new season. There's a lot of fun things that have come back from prior, where someone like me who's been playing for a long time, you know, that your Sableye starts getting less and less used, and you're like, man, and then you're like sad. But now it's like, oh, I get to use Sableye again, let's go. And then there's new stuff like Grumpig and Lapras, or not Lapras. Lapras is one of the things that's kind of returning because of the Psywave, but like Grumpig and Claydol are now very much top meta contenders just by having slight move updates. You know, that's the thing. Like, save everything that has good PvP IVs, because they're all just one change away from becoming meta. Grumpig is probably the biggest example of this. But let me know your thoughts on the rebalances in the comments. I'm looking forward to streaming on Wednesday and having a video hopefully out of something really saucy on Wednesday for the new changes. I'll catch y'all in the next one. Thank you as always. Bye-bye.